We're back, everyone.
He's back.
We're back. It's crazy. It's
that was
insane.
a great drum roll. Good introduction.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Perfect execution.
Thank you, everyone. Sports Talk on Elm Street. We are back for the 2024-2025 school year, the sports year, the whole year. We're back. It's been about. Let me think about this for a second. It's been about, I'll say, 3.5 months since we were last in this room.
Would have been the end of, May? Beginning of May.
Yeah, I
That
think.
feels like forever ago.
It really does feel like forever ago. But I mean, now all that time has passed, and it's time for a new year of school for us, a new season of sports. And if you're new here, this is kind of the thing that we do. So we talk about sports. And we're back. I'm Joe Elms. He's Quinn Richards. And for our first episode of the new school year, we have a very, very special guest, one that I know you all have seen and heard before. He is, what a guy, man. We got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Riley Woodall, back on for the second time on the show. Riley, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It means a lot to us.
Hey, thank you guys for having me again. I say it every time I come on the show. If you're not listening to this podcast, what are you doing with your life? If you want to this podcast is like the fountain of youth. You will forever stay young if you listen to the show.
It's also Elm Street, fountain of youth.
I also say it's the best student-run podcast in the IU Media School, and I maintain that to this day. So come join. These two fellas do an amazing job. Thank you both for having me on.
Of course. I got to say, last time we had Riley on, probably one of the best episodes we've ever had. The energy just off the walls. It was electric,
and
to say the least.
And that is precisely why I wanted to get him back on, because he's just like, you've got the vibes, man. I don't really know how to put it other than that. It's just the vibes are incredible every time you come on, and we have said this a lot before. We love to have fun here. We talk about sports, and sports are fun, and we love to have fun here. And Riley is just an unbelievably fun guy, and I mean, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to have him on. You're stoked to have him on. But
I'm stoked to be here.
You're stoked to be here.
Everybody's stoked.
We're all stoked for a fresh new season of new year. But I mentioned, I'll just take maybe a little bit of time just before we get kind of into the meat and potatoes of the podcast, this episode today. I mentioned that it's been about 3.5 months since we were last here. So, Riley, you're our guest. I'll go to you first. We can maybe spend a couple minutes talking about this.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Yeah.
How was your summer?
Absolutely incredible. I got to finish the summer breathing the same air as DeForest Buckner.
Wow.
So I will never shower again. Okay. I'll probably shower these first couple months of school because it's hot. Oh my gosh, the heat has been
seriously, man.
Horrible.
That has been
horrible.
It's horrible.
But after that, it's like
no showers.
No showers.
Just none. No.
No, but I interned up at Wish TV8 up in Indianapolis in their sports department.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely incredible experience. The people there were phenomenal. Started my first month covering the Indy 500. I was just at the track 24/7. That was great. I mean, come on. It's the greatest spectacle in racing. And then ended it with Colts training camp, throwing some Indy fever with Caitlin Clark. You got the Pacers doing work this year, which was great.
A lot happens in Indy.
A lot happens in Indy. Yeah, it made the summer super, super fun. And I've announced already, but I will announce it on the podcast.
Yes, please.
I am back shooting high school football with them on Friday nights.
Ooh.
So that is a lot of fun. I love high school football. I love football in general.
Yeah,
you guys know
course.
it. And the future's great. The future's bright. But summer was awesome.
That's amazing.
Summer was awesome.
That's
amazing.
Truly great to hear.
Quinn, I want to go over to you next. How was your summer? I know they've seen the polo that you're rocking
polo I'm
today.
repping.
There's a story behind that.
Yeah, so if you look at this,
yes.
this is a flaming tater tot. And where else would you get flaming tater tots than in Minot, North Dakota Collegiate League Summer Baseball, which is where I was at. It was the Northwoods League. I was up in Minot, North Dakota. So I was a part of the sponsorship and entertainment team, doing like on-field hosting and stuff. So if you ever see those guys on the field holding the mics, running on-field games at usually minor league stadiums, I know the major leagues have started kind of getting into that as well, the whole show side of it. I was running that stuff behind the scenes on the field. It was a blast. It was a lot of work, a lot of hard work, a lot of long nights for sure, but definitely a blast. Got some broadcasting in there on the side, which was awesome to do. It was a great time. Yeah, really enjoyed it up in Minot, North Dakota. So that's where I was at, and then traveled to Oklahoma for some family, and that's how I ended the summer. Joe, tell us about your face.
Yeah,
Your face. Oh, man.
Nice. That's a pretty good segue.
Congrats,
that's
Quinn,
a good,
by the way. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Seriously,
Great,
Quinn,
great
congrats.
to hear. Great to hear.
Great to hear, and you deserve every bit of it. Yeah, that was a great segue into my face.
Joe's face.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I don't know the lore behind this yet.
All right, so my summer was I'll try to pack it into a couple minutes. My summer was a roller coaster. Seriously, there was some really good, and then there was some pretty bad. I came home in May, and then at the end of May, I had corrective jaw surgery to fix an open bite that I've had since I was born. So the whole lore about this, kind of how this happened, was this procedure had been a possibility since I was like 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
Right? I had this open bite, and it's kind of like when your teeth and like your jaw, and when you bite down, like they don't line up correctly, and basically my lower jaw was outgrowing my upper jaw, and that's like that can't continue. That can't continue to be. That's not. And if it did, I would risk having problems breathing, sleeping, whatever, into my 30s, 40s, 50s.
That's really not good.
You don't want to, yeah. So they're like, okay, we've done, my orthodontist was like, okay, we've done everything we can. We got to do this. We don't have another option. So we're like, okay. And then I went in, I think May 22nd was when I went into the hospital, and they did the procedure. It lasted, I think it lasted like 4 or 5 hours. Then I stayed in the hospital for 4 or 5 days afterward. Wow. The first couple days were really bad. I was super swollen. I was like numb, but also in pain, if that makes any sense.
I get that.
Been there before.
Yeah, I was numb, but also in pain, really swollen, throwing up blood. Not good.
Wow.
Not good. Not good at all.
Trooper. He's a trooper.
But very, very slowly got better. The swelling went down. I had a splint in my mouth, which is kind of like, how do I describe it? It's kind of like you guys like, either y'all ever worn a retainer?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's like,
I still wear a retainer.
it's like a retainer, but it's twice as big, and it covers the whole roof of my mouth. So anyway, I had that in for about a month. Got that off at the beginning of July, and then by that point, I was basically about like 95% healthy again.
Tell us the good, Joe. Where does it get better?
The good. So it gets better. So,
successful surgery.
Yeah,
That's
successful
That's
surgery.
good as well.
Praise the Lord.
Successful surgery. Still a little bit numb right here, but that's like it. Eating great, drinking great. It's great.
Awesome.
I'm basically healthy. The good. All right, let's get into that.
Yeah, let's get into the good.
Yeah, let's. So, as this was going down, I was able to secure an internship with this little kind of summer collegiate league called the Prospect League. I know. Yep. I think there are a couple of media school students here who have, let's call it, dabbled in the Prospect League, who have done roles in the Prospect League. It's like, basically, if you don't know what the Prospect League is, it's like a summer league for college kids.
Yeah.
Like college students, most of these kids go to like some of them go to kind of like low-level D1 schools. Most of them are like D2, D3 players. So I managed to get an internship with a team, the Jackson Rockabillies, who are based in Jackson, Tennessee, which is about an hour outside of Memphis.
My man.
So I managed to secure an internship for that. It was great. I mean, the people were phenomenal. They were super understanding, super flexible through all of this, all of the surgery, and I was able to stream the games kind of like while I was recovering, and I would like write my little media press releases almost. They're like post game recaps, whatever. I would like write those for the team, and even though I unfortunately, I say unfortunately, it's like kind of like whatever at this point. I was not able to go up there in person because of the recovery just messed all the timing up.
Yeah.
But I was able to do it remotely, and again, I want to give a huge shout out to the entire Jackson Rockabilly's organization. You guys were unbelievably just understanding and flexible, and I cannot thank them enough. But I was able to do that for the bulk of the summer while I was recovering, and then after I was healthy, and then I went to Florida with my family. Went to Seaside. My family bought a property up there, bought a house. Got to see that for the first time. That was cool. Got to hang out at the beach. It was nice.
That is awesome.
And that was basically the end of my summer.
That's awesome.
So,
that's a productive summer right there.
It was a pretty insane summer, but I'm thankful that I'm basically completely healthy, and I'm grateful that I'm back here and getting to talk about the thing that I love the most with two of the guys I love the most. So
that's awesome. That is awesome to hear.
So glad that the surgery was good. So glad that you were able to still do the internship.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was a really crazy summer, but I'm glad. God has a way of just working things out.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Everything worked out in the end, and those are our summers for those who are curious. But now I know. But now let's get into the thing that you guys really want to hear about.
Oh, because everyone wants to hear about Indiana University football.
Hey now. They're turning a new leaf.
This is true.
This is true.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, college football. I almost said it hasn't started yet, and then I realized that's wrong because I thought that I was kind of like under the impression that I think the original plan was when we got back, we were going to record our first episode during like the week before classes start, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I learned that Mr. Richards was not arriving back in Bloomington until the
2 days before class.
So I'm like, okay, change of plans.
Hey, arriving in style.
Exactly.
Arriving
fashionably late.
Arriving in style. Arriving in style. He truly did. But so now we're recording. This is like it's the Friday of the first week classes. But you mentioned Indiana football.
I did.
You did. We have a lot to talk about regarding Indiana football.
Oh my goodness!
Yes.
I mean, there have been so many changes. We talked, I think, a little bit before the year was over, Quinn, if I remember this correctly. I think we talked a little bit about the Kurt Cignetti hire and kind of what it means for the program going forward, and a little bit about the whole transfer thing, about how many players from James Madison were following Coach Cignetti to Bloomington.
A little bit, but I think a lot more had happened post the last episode we did. But yeah, a lot has changed on that front in terms of transfers. You mentioned 15 of the projected 22 starters, which I learned this today, are expected to be transfers.
That's pretty
it's
insane.
Just kind of crazy, either from James Madison or elsewhere. I know there's a Wisconsin offensive lineman that's coming over, among others. So it's going to be a whole new look for the Hoosiers come this fall.
Yeah, I mean,
come tomorrow, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, come tomorrow.
FIU.
Their
coming to town.
First game is taking on the FIU Panthers.
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say Panthers. Taking on the FIU Panthers. It is going to be extremely fascinating and extremely interesting to see how this team looks right out of the gate, because this team has been, I mean, we've got a new head coach, obviously, a new offensive system. Essentially, what is kind of what I think is like nothing from the tenure of Tom Allen has been retained as Kurt Cignetti has come over. He's just completely redone everything. Yeah. And I think that's I think that's a good thing because we saw kind of let's call it the limitations of Tom Allen's team philosophy, let's call it. We kind of saw the limitations of that, and we knew it was painfully obvious that something needed to change, and they're doing just that by bringing in Kurt Cignetti, and Cignetti having, like, basically, it seems like the entire James Madison roster follow him.
Yeah, it's kind of like a James Madison hybrid.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right in that this organization needed a reset button.
Yeah.
Like, complete wipe the slate clean. Also, side note, before I get into this, really think Tom Allen's going to do well as the DC at Penn State.
Yeah.
I really think he's going to do well.
Yeah.
Loved his interview when Big Ten Network went to one of their practices. Anyway, Kurt Cignetti's a winner at every single level he's been at. 13 seasons as a collegiate head coach, 119 and 35. 119 and 35. He also took James Madison to the FBS level. That is a remarkable accomplishment in and of itself because we don't see that happen very often.
That just doesn't. That's not.
That's a rarity.
Yeah,
it's rarity. It's not mainstream. It just doesn't. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I love the team motto of fast, physical, relentless. They have 8 home games this year. That's a big deal for them. That's going to allow them to garner momentum. I'm sure we'll get into record predictions later.
Yes, we will. We definitely will.
The one question I have, and this is where it just comes down to playing the games.
Yeah.
We have so many questions like, it could be this, it could be that. It's like, we're not going to
find out until
they play the games.
Playing. Yeah.
How will those FCS and JMU players adjust to playing in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Because it's a remarkable accomplishment to play collegiately. At any level. Any level.
Regardless,
I can't do it. My brother is getting ready to play his freshman season at Marian University. So, again, great guy. That's a shameless plug. But anyway, super proud of him. But this is the Big Ten we're talking about. This is no longer JMU. This is no longer FCS going to FBS. How will those players adjust to playing in the Big Ten? That is my big question. I think we'll know a lot after the UCLA game in particular. I think that's going to be a very physical game. But that is my question, and that's what we're going to have to wait and see. I think a lot of the transfers are going to be really, really solid. I think Curtis Rourke, while he did struggle in the spring game, is going to bring a lot of continuity and explosiveness to the offense.
Yeah.
I think that 4 running back system they have, that 4-man running back room is going to be great for them. Defensively, I think they're going to fly around and make a lot of good plays. So a lot of good things to see in the future.
Quinn, going over to you. I guess just thoughts on the structure and the new philosophy of this revamped Indiana team and the JMU transfers, as Riley touched on.
Yeah, you mentioned needing a fresh start, and I'm going to use an analogy. We're back to school. It's the first week of school, so I'm going to use a school analogy here, kind of talking about this Indiana team. So imagine you're like a freshman, and you go to a community college, let's say. Mm-hmm. You do it. You're having a good time. You do your classes and stuff. You come your sophomore year, and you're transferring out, right? Those are the James Madison guys. Then they're coming into IU. Do you want to start by scheduling the hardest 400 classes at Indiana University? No,
definitely
you don't
not.
want
Absolutely
to.
not.
Definitely not.
So I think a huge strength for this Indiana team is that non-conference schedule. You're looking at it here. It's FIU, Western Illinois, and Charlotte. So those are the 3 powerhouses.
That Western Illinois game, just come on.
And look, I think that's a huge thing because what's the number one way to get your guys working together with good chemistry? It's not by going out and getting shellacked by some huge SEC team to start the season. No, you got to win some games.
It's not like we're playing Georgia or Alabama to start off the season.
Exactly. And
unlike Clemson having to play Georgia.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
I will say there is merit into playing a tough team, that reality check. And I think you might get that with UCLA. They're no sleeper. But starting off with those 2 easy games is incredibly huge for a team to play game reps with one another, get going, get Curtis Rourke into the action. And another thing I want to see is Taven Jackson used in the red zone.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because I've seen it work. I think back to, obviously, as an Ohio State guy, the first Ohio State reference of the episode coming in
Going to be
pretty
many,
quickly.
many more when we branch out. But
Isn't that the truth? I think back to C.J. Stroud's junior year, and they used Devin Brown back then, and I know Devin Brown's hot topic after that Missouri game, but Devin Brown was used in the red zone, and he was used very effectively. And I think that's something that we can see with Taven Jackson. You get him down to the red zone, he's kind of that wild card. You throw him in there. You could run not really a wildcat because obviously he's a quarterback, but sort of pseudo wildcat formation with him in there.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that could be very useful for Indiana down the stretch, and I want to see him get some early reps in those first 2 games.
I think that you can run a lot of different looks with Taven Jackson in the red zone. You can kind of just, I think, throw off the defense, get them to a point where they don't really expect what's coming next, because there are lots of different ways that you can use Taven in some of those red zone packages, that red zone offense. But listen, the non-conference schedule is going to be a big plus for the Hoosiers. It allows them time to. We were kind of talking about something similar with Ohio State. You and me, Quinn, because we'll get to Ohio State in a second, because I know you have thoughts about them. Anyway,
I also have thoughts about them.
I know you also have thoughts about them. You all have takes about them. But for Indiana, the non-conference schedule is obviously a big plus, because it kind of allows them to get their bearings, I guess. Just kind of like, FIU, okay. Western Illinois, like you said.
If they don't blow out Western Illinois, we have problems.
We have a problem. And then
DEFCON 1 in Bloomington.
And then they're going on the road to Los Angeles to take on UCLA, which will definitely be UCLA's no pushover. And then they come back home to take on Charlotte, the Charlotte 49ers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I learned that from College Football 25.
That's
I
awesome.
Think I learned
what's
that.
up. Great game, by the way.
Amazing game. Shameless plug. Amazing game. It's everything that we hoped it would be.
Possibly the biggest development in college football this offseason was college football 25.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
College football 25.
We didn't know. It's been like 3 years. Are we going to get it? Are we not going to get it? And then finally we did.
They finally finish.
Yep.
But it's going to be, it's going to be a big plus, kind of just to figure out who this team really is, because there's been a lot of talk about the structure, what they want to be. Sometimes what you want to be, sometimes it will be the same as what you are, and then sometimes it's not the same. It's kind of like, Riley, you touched on this. It's just kind of like there's a lot that we will not know until the games actually begin. And until we go out and see them play FIU tomorrow afternoon at 3:30, I think. Till we see them take the field against FIU, there will be lots of things that we don't know.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's going to be a very interesting, I think, first 4 games of the year. I'm looking forward to seeing where they are heading into conference play.
Yeah, I think too. An interesting thing for me, and I look back at the spring game, I understand wanting to start Curtis Rourke. I understand that. MAC Conference Player of the Year last year.
Right.
Great quarterback, very talented. Taven Jackson knows the system better. He just did. He had one mistake in that spring game, and that was the interception.
Right.
That was it. Rourke was the victim of a couple drop passes, but he was missing throws.
Yeah.
His strength is the 2-minute drill. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, even though I'm pretty sure they named Rourke the starter.
I'm pretty sure they're going to have Rourke as QB1.
Rourke's going to be the starter. So how much leeway does he get? I'm curious at how close that battle is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How close that battle is in practice.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if Rourke is slow to start the first 4 or 5 games, if Taven overtakes him.
It's fair to wonder how long or short Rourke's leash is, right? It's definitely, I don't know. I think that, you can't overlook something like MAC Player of the Year.
No.
I don't think.
You can't.
Rourke definitely deserved that award, and he is a phenomenal player. He's a great quarterback. Did he have some blunders, let's put them in the spring game. Yeah, sure. He didn't play his best. That's clear. But I think, I don't know. It's like, Riley, definitely agree with you. I think that it's fair to wonder kind of how long or short his leash is, and if he perhaps stumbles out of the gates, maybe Kurt Cignetti takes a look at putting Taven Jackson in there.
I think a big thing may be that Cignetti's not married to the system. In a sense that we're not entirely sure this is going to be it's likely not going to be the same system. Obviously, you have quite a few returners for Indiana, but it could be a whole different system. And I don't know, it might be a situation where Cignetti's like, I'm coming in new, Rourke is coming in new. He doesn't have anything, he's not married to Taven Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, he's not, he didn't recruit him at all. You know what I mean? He didn't recruit either of the guys. So he might just be like, Rourke's my guy, he's coming in new. And I think at the end of the day, I tend to look at how you played during the season versus the spring game, because it's a very different situation. It obviously does need to play a factor, but I still want to, as I mentioned earlier, see Taven Jackson get some reps on the field.
That's interesting, Quinn, because you brought up something I'm not really sure I thought about that much. It's like, Cignetti did not recruit Taven Jackson, but he and Cignetti and Curtis Rourke have been, they were together at JMU for multiple seasons, and
you can say that he also recruited Rourke back to Indiana as a transfer.
And what you also have here is a steady system, because if Rourke's a starter, he plays the whole year. I don't know if he has another year of eligibility. He might not. He's a redshirt senior. So then you bring Taven Jackson in. He can run that. And then after that, you have Tyler Cherry for 3-4 years. I think he's the future. If anything, you're developing him for the future. So, if anything, you're kind of stabilizing yourself for the years to come.
Yeah.
If anything else. But again, just from what I watched in the spring game, man, it's like, why are we not starting Taven?
Yeah.
Why are we not giving him that shot? Now, Rourke could absolutely make me eat my words in the first 4 games, and he could have 250 yards and 4 touchdowns in every single game. He could, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I'll be like, you know what? I was wrong. As a man, you have to admit when you're wrong.
Exactly.
So, again, it's just going to be interesting to see. I'm not as worried about the defense as I am the offense. The offense has been the problem for Indiana the past several years.
Yep.
They have not been explosive. They have not been productive, particularly in the run game.
Yeah.
They need to have a very solid and established ground game, because if they don't, NFL, it's different. NFL, it's mostly passing, if not all passing. Like, you have pro athletes everywhere, right? Yeah. But in college and high school, you have to have a consistent ground game.
Yep.
Pros, you don't really have to have that.
No.
But in college, with the environments you go into, with the different waves of talent that you're going to go against on defense, you have to take that pressure off the QB by having a solid ground game. If they can have that, I'm not worried about the offense.
I don't think it's particularly unreasonable to say that the running game and the elements of having at the very least a solid running back is vastly more important at the high school level and the college level than it is at the NFL level, at least in this point in time. Wait, I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
That goes right into my point. I was going to say, I'm not so sure it's as much about the running back as the offensive line, because I have it written down, weakness, offensive line in bold here. You look at who's returning. You have 2 starters, left tackle Carter Smith and center Mike, I think it's Cottage. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce that. Kadick?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, awesome. Those are your only 2 returners.
Yeah.
They both had below average PFF grades last season. You bring in 2 transfers from JMU, one of which was a starter, the other played a reserve role. And then you have a Wisconsin transfer, Trey Wedig. Of all of those guys, none of them are really standout offensive linemen. All of them had below average PFF grades. So if you expect to have Curtis Rourke or Taven, regardless of who's back there, in a good situation, or have a run game, you need an offensive line that can support that and to make those gaps, can hold that pass protection. And I'm not sure that IU has that at this point in time. So I think that could be a huge glaring weakness as the season begins. And I think especially as we get into that UCLA game going against a Power 5 defensive line, we're going to see just how good that offensive line has become and how successful the IU offense is going to be, because I think a large portion of that is going to hinder on the offensive line.
And it's incredibly unfortunate. Real quick, Joe, just want to throw this out there.
Yeah.
Nick Kidwell getting injured, and he's going to miss the whole season due to the injury. I feel so bad for him. And that is, in my opinion, based on all the points that you just brought up, that is the one position group you cannot have injuries in. You cannot. You can't do it. Because the offensive line, you're right, has been the glaring problem. And that's what's led to quarterback injuries, a lack of production on offense, a lack of a ground attack, a lack of consistency in the passing game. It's not good. That's not good. You can't have that. Good. And so I'm really hoping that they can adjust to it. I hope that's not something that completely derails their season. But if we look back on it and Indiana's not good on the offensive line again this year, then you start to have questions, like massive, glaring questions.
Yeah. I like that point you made about just how important, how I guess derailing injuries can be on an offensive line, because something I kind of noticed while I think it was during the Georgia Tech upset, it was about the offensive line. And I kind of realized in the broadcast, of all positions in college football, that's the only one where they bring up the amount of starts or amount of snaps they've played consecutively. You don't hear that about wide receivers, sometimes about a quarterback or a defensive player, but offensive linemen, they always mention how many starts they have together, and they always emphasize that because it is truly so important. That's, I mean, the chemistry for the offensive linemen with one another is one of the most important aspects of college football, and it goes under the radar a lot. And as you mentioned, with this new group, I mean, these guys have not played together hardly at all. I mean, there's only 2 returners, so that's going to be a crucial aspect, and it's unbelievable how important that's going to be this season.
And I think to your point, Quinn, I can't help but wonder how much chemistry truly is there between these starters on the offensive line. I mean, none of these dudes play with each other. I think you just mentioned that. None of these dudes play with each other, and it's gonna be a kind of a learning on the fly sort of thing. And I don't know. It's just like this team. I'm just kind of speaking generally here. This team is I don't know if polarizing is the right word. There are aspects of this team that have just gobs of potential. Like this is going to be great. This is what we've got. And then there are other parts of this team that is like, this could be a major problem. Kind of like Riley, you were kind of mentioning both. I think both of y'all mentioned, I mean, obviously the offensive line and then the perhaps possible lack of a consistent running game. I don't know. This IU team, this iteration of Indiana football is fascinating. It's a little bit maybe mysterious because we don't.
I was gonna say scary. Yeah,
a little.
definitely.
I didn't want to say scary, but it's just like
it's kind of on those lines.
We don't know a lot about it because so much is new, right? There's so many new elements, and it's kind of like, I think the collective point that we're like trying to make is that there's so much we don't know, so much that we won't know until the games start.
And speaking of games,
speaking of games,
how do we think they're gonna do?
Let's get a little bit of a record prediction. Riley, you're our guest. I'll go to you first. What are your thoughts? What is your record prediction for the Hoosiers this upcoming season?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you 3 scenarios.
Yes.
Best case scenario, what I think will happen most likely, and then worst case scenario.
Right.
Okay.
Best case scenario, 7-5.
Oh. Okay.
That's best case scenario.
Okay.
They have 8 home games. They should. This is going to be a point that I'll bring up in a second. They should win all their non-conference. In this situation, I have them beating UCLA, Maryland. They lose a weird game at Northwestern. They lose to Nebraska. They lose in a shootout to Washington. They go and they beat Michigan State. Lose to Michigan, lose to Ohio State. There's no way they're beating those teams. I'm sorry. Particularly Ohio State at the Shoe the week before they play the Wolverines. Ohio State's on a mission this year. More on that in a second. And then they beat Purdue. So in that scenario, that's what they do. Most likely 6-6, 5-7.
Okay.
That's kind of most likely scenario. Worst case scenario, and people have called me crazy for this.
Oh.
2-10.
Oh.
Wow. That's
Whoa.
insane. So you just have them beating, I'm assuming,
FIU and Western Illinois.
Yeah. And then losing 10 in a row.
That is the worst possible. That is a nightmare situation for them. That's why I said worst case scenario. I don't think it's going to happen. I really hope it doesn't happen. But that is the nightmare situation. Can you imagine the dark cloud over Bloomington this year if they go 2-10?
I really can't.
It'd be horrible.
I'm sorry, I can't visualize that right now.
Exactly. This is a new era. We can't have that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you just can't not have that. That's why I said most likely 6-6, best case 7-5.
So
that's kind of where they're going to land.
Around 500.
Yeah, and I think they'll get a bowl. I really do. I think they'll get a bowl game.
Quinn.
I'm going to just stick with. I'm just going to throw one out there, which is what I think is going to be.
What do you think is going to happen?
The record.
Yeah.
I do think. I would say the floor is 3 wins. I just don't see a loss to Charlotte. I know Charlotte 49ers they're no sleeper, but I'm going to say 3 wins is the floor. Anyways, my prediction is 6-6 and they win a bowl game.
Okay.
I think that's what goes down.
Yeah.
And those
7-6.
wins are going to be the 3 non-conference. I think they beat Northwestern. And then I think they are going to take one of either the Nebraska game or the Michigan State game on the road and then beat Purdue, who coming into the season is the only team that consistently ranked below Indiana on the preseason list. And then I think they get a bowl game, and I think coming off that Indiana-Purdue rivalry game, you have that time to kind of prep for the bowl game, and I think Signetti powers this team to a win.
Yeah.
Right.
That'd be a great first year.
And that's
If
it.
they're able to go to a bowl and then win it, that's huge.
That's incredibly huge
That's
for this program.
Huge for them. Recruiting-wise, I mean, NIL's there, but like recruiting-wise, program itself-wise, and momentum-wise. It'd be remarkable for them to do that. I think they will do that. I'm with Quinn on this one. They just got to execute. They're not going to beat Michigan or Ohio State.
No.
That point blank period,
No.
they're not. Washington, I think, is just too good offensively. Nebraska, I'm really high on Nebraska.
Me too.
I'll talk
Me
about
too.
I'll talk about my
Yeah.
my top 25 or whatever in a little bit.
Yeah.
But Nebraska's going to be really good. Joe,
They're-
what
they're
do
pretty-
you think?
Yeah. So
Where's Mr. Elms on this?
So I'm just taking a look at this. All right, let me see. I kind of I was thinking about I kind of want to go game by game, but I'm gonna make it quick. So I'll kind of do Quinn. I'll kind of take your approach. I'm just gonna throw out what I think is gonna happen. All right, so let's see. So week 1 FIU, that's a win. Western Illinois, that's a win. UCLA, I think they beat UCLA. It's close.
Yeah.
They're 3-0. They beat Charlotte. They start at 4-0.
Yep.
Okay. Maryland at home. I think. Oh man,
They don't have Talia Tagovailoa anymore.
they don't.
Remember that.
I think again a close one, but I think they take it against Maryland. So 5-0.
Wow.
I might go. I was thinking about maybe giving. I think kind of
Northwestern's playing at a high school stadium. Remember that.
yeah.
Pseudo high
So
school
far,
stadium.
Joe is on my prediction path. I have them starting 5-0 too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only reason I threw the Northwestern loss in there is because this is Indiana football and it's almost too good to be true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But go ahead, Joe.
You
Go
know
ahead.
what? It is too good to be true. They beat Northwestern.
Wow.
6-0.
Whoa!
If
And
Indiana
then-
started the season 6-0, there would be riots in Bloomington.
6-0.
Bloomington would not exist anymore.
We're a football
It would burn down. We're a football school.
So Bloomington explodes. So they're 6-0. Bloomington explodes, and then Nebraska comes to town and beats the brakes off.
yeah.
6-1.
Yep.
Then they lose. I'll say they lose to Washington, but it's closer than a lot of people think.
Okay.
6-2. I think they lose to Michigan State in East
Aiden
Lansing.
Childs is really good.
I think
Nick
they
Carter's
lose.
really good.
I think they lose to Michigan State in East Lansing, lose 3 in a row, 6-3. Lose to Michigan, lose to Ohio State, 6-5, and then I think they beat Purdue at home to end the year.
So much like how your summer was, this is a roller coaster of a season.
Yes, truly, just very similar to my summer. It's a roller coaster season, but 7-5, and I think bowl games are weird because you have no idea who they're going to play.
Not at all.
So I will, just because keeping in tune with my schedule, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. They win the bowl game in the year 8-5.
Nice.
Wow.
That's my prediction. 8-5.
So we all have them going to a bowl and winning it.
Correct.
Crazy,
Cool.
honestly.
That's cool.
Pretty crazy.
It's doable. 100%.
We're
it's doable.
optimists here on Sports Talk.
We are.
We are optimists.
Is this like a groundbreaking thing? Are you guys typically, I mean, I'm on a little bit. I'm typically always the optimist. Are you guys more pessimistic or realistic here?
I think it kind of depends on.
I think I tend to be the more pessimistic one, but
it kind of depends on what
does
we're
depend.
talking about.
yeah,
Got
it
it.
does. It does.
I think it kind of depends on what we're talking about. But I feel like generally.
We're still positive. We're positive.
Yeah,
We are
I think
positive.
we like to. We sound positive. I think, I guess, I can't speak for you, but generally, I consider myself to be an optimist most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So we've gone over the Hoosiers, what we think their season is going to end up looking like. Let's kind of branch out to the rest of the college football landscape, maybe the top 25. Riley, you mentioned that you had your own top 25.
I do have my own top 25.
Waiting in the wings for
Yep.
us. And you know what? I'll go right to you. I would love to hear what your top 25 prediction is, and I guess how it compares and contrasts
Sure.
to the AP poll.
Well, I've got them both lined up in a column here. Quinn
Yes,
can see my
yes.
computer. I've
I'm
got them
smiling.
lined up in the column.
I'm smiling right now if that gives you a hint.
I think I know how the top of this
Okay.
might go.
So again, this is preseason, and I want to put a couple qualifiers on the three things I took into account when ranking.
Yes.
Talent, and specifically veteran talent.
Okay.
I'll get into that in a second. Roster build, strengths, weaknesses, overall grade, and then their schedule. I know people typically don't take schedule into account in preseason. I do, just because I want my preseason top 25 to be a little, more deep, more diverse.
Yeah, of course.
My question for that is, is it a good schedule? Like, if they have a tough schedule, does that put them
Sure.
higher, or is it based off of if you think they're going to win more games based on their schedule? So an easy schedule. would
Probably
put them
more
higher.
of the latter.
Okay.
Probably more of the latter, just because. So, yeah, I'll get to, like OU, for example.
Yes.
Buzzsaw of a schedule.
Okay.
They have
Buzzsaw
an
of a schedule.
insane
But
schedule.
if they're able to do what I think they're going to do with that schedule, spoiler alert, I have them 12th.
Okay.
Right now. So like that's kind of just something. So I'll go through like a few points here. I'm not going to go through everything, but
Yeah.
just to kind of rattle them off real quick. Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Penn State, Michigan, Alabama, Utah, Florida State, Nebraska, Miami, OU, Missouri, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, USC, Tennessee, Kansas, Arizona, Iowa, LSU, Clemson, Texas A&M. So automatically, the AP and I disagree, which when do we not disagree?
Real.
The AP has Georgia number 1. I have Ohio State number 1. Quinn, you're going to love that.
Certain someone is grinning up there.
So here's the thing. Here's the difference that I took into account here. Ohio State's going to have the best defense in college football.
Yep.
Everybody is back because everybody is tired of the narrative of them losing to Michigan and not getting it done. They came back to win a national championship. That point blank period. That's what all of these guys that came back to do. They have so many, particularly on the defensive side, that could be in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
They could, 100%. But NIL and wanting to come back for a common purpose brought them back. And so, Quinn, you're not going to like this comparison, but it's a genuine comparison. They look a lot similar to the way Michigan looked last year. Veteran talent. That's the first thing I took into account. Veteran talent. Will Howard, grad student. They got Quinshon Judkins, who is one of the most talented running backs in the country. Him and Trayvon Henderson, that's going to be a great duo to watch.
That has got to be, I don't think there's any question about it. That's got to be the best two-man running game
Absolutely.
in the country. There's not a doubt.
1,000%.
Hands down.
1,000%. That backfield's going to be great. They got Chip Kelly running the plays now from UCLA. Mm-hmm. He's a run-oriented guy. I think that's going to unlock the offense. Jeremiah Smith, that true freshman, they're talking about him like he's going to be
Seriously.
so good.
The praise
and
is ridiculous.
I'm really excited to see him. And the elephant in the room is Caleb Downs coming in from Alabama. That is the best transfer this past offseason. The best transfer, and they got him. So that's what Ohio State has. Georgia, they lose Brock Bowers. I think Carson Beck is phenomenal. I think he's going to be really, really good this year. But the problem is, even though they have the best coach in college football now that Nick Saban retired and Kirby Smart, and they have been stashing 5 stars in the cupboard, because that's what Georgia does. They stash 5 stars.
That's exactly what they do.
I just don't see them being as powerful as they have been. Defensively, I think they're going to be better. Offensively, I think they're going to take a step back. We saw them last year. Whenever they needed a big play, you know who Carson Beck went to? Brock Bowers. And that's how they were able to win games. Yeah. Brock Bowers. You don't have that anymore. You don't. And so I think in a head-to-head, I think it will come down to my national championship. Prediction is Georgia, Ohio State.
Will it come down to a 50-yard field goal?
Hopefully not. But I think we get a rematch in this year's national championship, which would be awesome. That would be great. And so I'm pretty high on Ohio State. Georgia is the next most talented, so they're at my 2. Oregon and Texas, the AP and I both agree on. Dylan Gabriel coming over from OU. I think he's like a Bo Nix 2.0. He's going to be great in that offense. Texas at 4. Notre Dame at 5.
Oh.
I did put them in my top 5.
That's high.
They have 7 players, and this is one of my points and one of the predictions later. They have 7 players on the defensive side that are not juniors, not seniors. They are grad students.
That's insane.
7 grad students on the defensive side. Their defense is going to be lights out. I think Riley Leonard is going to be so much better than Sam Hartman. Yeah. Love Sam Hartman, but Riley Leonard's going to be better. And they have one of the best all-around players in college football in Jeremiah Love. Bringing love to South Bend. That sounds a little weird, but we'll move on from it.
A little bit. Whatever.
Ole Miss is good. I'm high on Penn State this year. I was high on them last year. They let me down. They have Andy Koldenicki now as the offensive coordinator.
Life of a Penn State fan.
Life of a Penn State fan. Their schedule is very workable, very manageable. It's going to be interesting to see them play West Virginia yet tomorrow.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Joel Klatt on the call.
I was going to bring that up. It's like walking into Morgantown and trying to beat West Virginia is absolutely no cakewalk whatsoever.
Yeah, no, not at all.
So that's going to be a great game.
Not at all. I have Michigan after Penn State, which means they are 6, 7, 8. Michigan is 8. I think they're going to take a step back. I don't think they're going to take as big of a step back as everybody else thinks.
Oh.
Passing's my question. Alex Orji has attempted 1 pass in his entire college career.
That's insane. For real, I did not know that.
Is that
insane.
More than J.J. McCarthy?
Good point.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't speak ill of the torn ACLs.
Rest in peace, J.J. McCarthy. I feel so bad for him.
I do feel bad for him.
He'll be back.
He'll be back better than ever.
But I put Alabama under Michigan just because Michigan just beat Alabama.
Yeah.
And Alabama's got a new coach. I think that Kalen DeBoer is going to do great at Alabama. Nick Saban left him with a really good core. Utah. I'm really high on Utah.
Cam Rising back healthy?
I have their depth chart pulled up right now.
If Cam Rising stays healthy, you know what they do? They go to the Pac-12 championship and they win it, and then they go to the Rose Bowl.
Ooh.
Or they go like what they've done before, or they go to a bowl game and they win it. Florida State 11. This is pretty awkward since they just lost to Georgia Tech. I don't think Florida State's season is over by any means. I just think Georgia Tech's a lot better than people thought.
Yeah.
And they need to take more risks.
Question.
Yes.
What if me personally, I do not think this is going to happen, but then I said that about Georgia Tech and look what happened. What will your thoughts be on Florida State if they lose to Boston College somehow?
Season's done.
Okay, then.
Season's done.
Okay, then.
If you lose to Georgia Tech and then Boston College back-to-back like that, how are you going to beat Clemson?
Yeah. That
defense, which they've highly touted, like defense is the strength of our team. They got driven on.
It did
Georgia
not
Tech
look good
drove on them.
Yeah.
They didn't look good at all. DJ Uiagalelei was great. He was very conservative with the ball. Didn't throw any touchdowns, but didn't throw any picks. That's a big deal.
He took good care of the ball, and he didn't turn it over.
But he needs to take more risks.
Yeah.
He needs to take more risks. So I believe in him. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think they're going to lose. I think they're going to turn it around and be great. Also, playing in Ireland is just also kind of weird. It's an interesting, weird thing. Nebraska is my 12.
Yeah.
Dylan Raiola in Lincoln I love so much. I think he's going to do really, really well. And most everybody is back on the defense, so that's good. He's got great weapons. Nebraska is going to be really solid this year. I think they, in my opinion, it's going to be a great game when they host Colorado next weekend.
Yes.
I'm really
That's gonna
excited.
be good.
I'm really excited to see that game. I think Nebraska is going to win by 10.
Yeah.
I think Nebraska's defense is so much better. I think they have the personnel group to match up with Colorado. And I think Dylan Raiola is going to put on a masterclass.
I was going to say also one thing about that. I watched most, if not all, of North Dakota State, Colorado last night.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I'm watching this game, and I'm kind of like thinking, man, I think Dylan Raiola could tear apart that Colorado defense.
That game's going to be 40-something to 40-something.
It's going to be, it's going to be insane, man. It's going to be, that game's going to be great.
And I mean, here's the thing. Even with the improved offensive line that Colorado was talking about, Shedeur Sanders was still having to roll around pretty much that whole game.
Yeah.
Move like this, move
rolling.
like that, step up in the pocket, go backwards. And he was taking some hits that you don't want your quarterback to take.
Yeah.
Offensive line has got to get better.
In the first game of the season, mind you.
Yes. A couple other notables, because I'm not going to go through all the rest of them, because I know we've got a lot more to get to. I got OU. I got Miami, OU. Miami, I think, is going to be pretty good this year, but I do think something's going to happen to them. We'll get to that in a second. Missouri, I think Missouri's going to do pretty well. USC, I think their defense is going to be a lot better. I think Miller Moss is actually going to be a better quarterback for the system and for the offense than Caleb Williams. Caleb, that is not a knock on Caleb Williams.
No, it's just like the system is better, I guess, designed for a quarterback like Miller Moss.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava is going to be phenomenal. He's a beast.
Fantastic pronunciation.
Yeah, that was awesome. Riley's been killing it with the pronunciation.
I listened to some college football podcasts over the summer, so I had some help. Like awesome. The Post Malone and who else sang that song? It was Post Malone and who else? I had some help.
Country artist.
Yeah. Quince
country.
Yeah. So Iowa, LSU, Clemson, A&M. Yeah, that's kind of how we ran it out. I don't have NC State in there just because I haven't seen enough of them yet.
Wallen.
Yeah. But Morgan Wallen.
I'm very
Gosh dang it, he just happens to be one of the biggest country artists ever. Dang it.
We're not a country music podcast, to say the least.
We don't personally cannot stand country, but that's just me. That's just me. Don't kill me. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
Quinn, you are well aware of my music taste, but
that's kind of just my analysis. I know we've got to get to way more in this show, so I'm gonna cut myself off there. The one last thing I'll say.
Yes, go ahead.
For them to have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. For them to have Clemson at 14 is actually ridiculous. I have them at 24. I like Dabo Swinney. I don't like his philosophy of not going to the transfer portal.
He's
shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be apparent when Florida State hosts them. I think that's going to be such a good game because the storyline is this is a team that's not gone to the transfer portal compared to Florida State, who has heavily gone into the transfer portal, and DJU gets a shot at his old team.
Yeah.
Yes.
So who was the problem? Was it the Clemson problem or was it a DJ problem? I'm so excited for that game. But anyway, I digress. That is the last thing I'll say about the top 25 comparisons.
That is Riley's top 25 in comparison with the AP poll. Quinn, so I'll go to you. Just kind of a thing about. I don't want to go too much longer, but I'll kind of go to. What are your thoughts? What do you think the AP poll got right, and what do you think they got wrong? Is my question for you.
Ooh,
yeah, I'm looking at it here.
question.
One thing that really stood out to me, looking at these early games: Notre Dame at 7, yet Texas A&M is down at 20. Texas A&M is favored to win that game. It's interesting for sure. It is being played, I believe, right at Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Home of the 12th,
at
man.
Kyle Field.
Yep.
So that's going to play a big factor.
Mm-hmm.
That's a game I have.
Station.
I have my eyes on because Like, if Texas A&M wins that, are they jumping into the top 10? I think it's possible. And that's a lot of teams to jump, and I don't know if the AP is going to be that convinced by a win like that, but I don't know. I think Texas A&M is a good team, but I also think that they've, in the past, had a lot of seasons where they've severely underperformed, and I fear
completely agree.
I fear they could show that against Notre Dame. Other things I'm looking at, I see Missouri at 11th. I think Missouri is a very interesting team, to say the least, because I watched what happened when that Missouri great offense went up against a good defense in the Cotton Bowl last year. Yes, they won the game, but that offense, I mean, to be fair, is one of the worst college football games I've seen in a minute in terms of offense. It was rough. Neither team can move the ball down the field. And
it was sad. If it was played in the regular season, it would have been such a good game.
It would have.
Such a good game.
It would have, and I would have loved to see that. Sure, there's a lot of mistakes with Ohio State and the quarterback situation, but, I mean, Ohio State lost that game fair and square regardless of who was under center. I think Missouri, I want to see what happens when they go against an elite defense. I think they could feasibly make the playoffs with the 12-team playoffs, but I don't know what's going to happen when that team takes on a high-caliber defense like Ohio State had last year, and I really want to see that. Other things, I think Utah is severely underrated. I think they can move up a ton, and I think that they will. Spoiler alert, I have them in my Final Four.
Whoa!
I do too. I think, honestly, they're going to win the Big 12.
Yes.
They're going to win the Big 12 and be one of the top 4 seeds.
I think they are huge benefactors of Texas and Oklahoma's exit from the conference, and I think they are the standout. Granted, we need Cam Rising to stay healthy if that's going to be a possibility.
I mean, this is his last chance.
Yes.
It really is.
Yes.
This is his last chance.
It really is. In that team, I was looking at the depth chart here. On offense, one new player. Everyone else is returner. On defense, you have a new safety, and then a new punt returner who... I mean, that, yeah.
Okay,
but,
like, just like, okay.
Hey, I mean, who knows, dude? Who knows?
Who knows? That could be everything. I mean, you look at Jalen Lucas out at Florida State, and that was kind of ridiculous. I was watching that game, and he had a great first possession, and then they didn't give him the ball again.
Right.
So
yeah, I noticed. I was watching the game, and I was thinking to myself, like, why are they? Has Jalen Lucas just like completely disappeared from the rotation?
I was watching the first. I don't know if he got hurt. Maybe I thought that was a possibility. I didn't really. I didn't catch that if he did, but he disappeared from the game, and I think Jalen Lucas is an explosive player, but I just don't know if any team knows how to use him right now.
It was like kind of funny because I was thinking about, I don't know how I was like got on the subject. I was like thinking about Jalen Lucas. Maybe I was playing like college football. I was playing like college football 25 or something, like right before the Florida State Georgia Tech game kicked off. And I was playing, and I was like, and I was looking at his roster, and I noticed like Jalen Lucas isn't there, but I'm like, oh, I knew he transferred. Where did he end up going? And then I flipped the game on, and there he is at Florida State. I'm like, oh. And I'm like, lol. I was like, LOL. That answers that question.
LOL.
Anyway.
I'll move on to you, Joe, for the top 25 things you want to say.
The AP poll of what I think they got right and what I think they did not get right. So let's take a look here. Obviously, I think it's I think maybe the whole 2-team race thing between Georgia and Ohio State is kind of what they're thinking. I think for the most part, they got that right. I think this is really tricky because I think Georgia may be just a little teeny tiny bit more of a sure thing, I guess, than maybe Ohio State is. I think this might have something to do with Will Howard. Just because there are some people who, are not completely convinced that Will Howard is the guy. Listen, Will Howard threw 24 touchdowns as opposed to 10 interceptions last year at Kansas State. That's nothing to sneeze at. And
I don't know why I found that so funny, but that was funny.
Proceed.
Get out.
Comedy.
Get out.
That is comedy genius.
Hey, what can I say? What can I say?
Get out. Get out.
I'm getting kicked out of the
I'm just
studio.
kidding. We like to have fun here. No, but I think, Georgia and Ohio State, I think they're more or less at the same level, and they got that right. Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss. Notre Dame, I have a weird feeling that Notre Dame is just going to just collapse on themselves like they seem to always do. I don't know. I feel like this is what I think Notre Dame is going to do because I don't have any, Because like over the past couple years or so, when I like got for like super into college football, Notre Dame they would have such a great start to the season, and then they would just something would happen that would keep them from making the playoffs. Obviously, I think they'd
lose the big one.
Yeah, they would lose the big one, and I know that they made. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they made the. It was either the playoff or the national title game back in, I think, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two.
They made the playoffs.
They made the playoff, and I think they lost to...
Yeah.
They were in it.
You got to keep in mind, that was also Brian Kelly's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I don't like Brian Kelly, but we don't get to open that can of worms.
That was the ACC year, no, with Florida State. They made the playoffs that year. They also made the playoffs the year after, no? Was it 2 years in a row? Because I know when they were with Clemson, they beat Clemson in the regular season, lost to Clemson by a ton in the ACC championship.
Because Trevor Lawrence was back.
Yes, and then still made the playoffs, which was
weird.
Very much an argument there.
Weird.
But and then I believe they lost by quite a bit to, I think it was Bama that year, or maybe Georgia.
I think the AP has severely overrated Alabama. I'm just going to say that. But that's SEC bias. That's just going to happen.
Thank goodness someone else has mentioned that, because I've been complaining about that for decades.
I love, like, when you bring this up a lot, how much you hate the SEC.
Well, okay, I don't hate the SEC. I just will say that I think, well, for one, growing up as a Big Ten fan, there is this big conference bias. I don't know if, Joe, because I know you grew up in the Big 12, and it's not necessarily as big of a thing there.
No.
In terms of like conference.
It's pretty big.
In terms of like conference wars, like it's more so just stays in the Big 12. But as a Big 10 fan, I've always been, like, I'm an Ohio State fan through and through, and you know this, but I'll cheer for Michigan almost every time. Maybe not the national championship, but if it's Big Ten,
makes sense.
And then every bowl season, I'm like, oh, I hope the Big Ten proves. But it's more so because your team has that allegiance, and you want that to look good. And I just feel like year in and year out, the SEC is ranked higher. Then the SEC teams beat those teams that were ranked higher than they should have been, and then they get into the playoffs over more deserving teams in conferences like the Big Ten.
Alabama over Florida State last year.
Exactly.
I remember we had our whole discussion on the show about that.
My opinion has vastly changed over that situation, but yeah, it's all right.
I guess let me keep looking. I'm weird on. I'm kind of on Notre Dame. I mean, the 12-team playoff, could they make it? Yes, I could see it happening. I just can't shake the feeling that they're gonna do something that kicks them out of the picture. Where do you say something? Or Riley?
Quinn, you go ahead.
No, you go. I have a transition. So
I mean, we're gonna do predictions, right?
Yeah, we're gonna add this. How we're gonna
I'll save my spoiler, because if I say it now, I'll spoil it. But basically, I don't think that's gonna happen this year. I understand the hesitation to look at Notre Dame and be like, well, they look good at the start of the season the past 2 years, and then they failed. And that's kind of what the formula has been in South Bend for several years now.
That was my whole whole point.
So history would tell you that. I just think this year it could be different.
Yeah, it could be. I get I see where you're coming from.
All right. One thing I am kind of interested in, that I want to hear from you guys, a very short before we do our
Week 1 predictions.
Week 1 predictions, and then I think we should get to a Final Four predictions. Probably not do like a full 12 team. Maybe do a Final Four playoff. You want to think about that? I know it's harder now with like the whole bracket that you're gonna have to deal with. Sure. I think we should go with that, and then I want to hear just very, very quickly from each of us. What's one game this year that you have marked, circled, and read 8 times? Like one game on the schedule that you think is going to be just a great game, and let's say a regular season game, so we don't have to do any predictions. So I can go first if you guys want some time to talk about it. The one I circled right here is Georgia at Texas, October 19th.
Oh my gosh.
That game, I was thinking about between Ohio State at Oregon or Georgia, Texas. I decided to stray away from the Ohio State for now. I'll go with Georgia, Texas, because I think this game is going to be huge. I think it really is going to show you where Texas is, because I think Texas is going to beat Michigan. And I think this is really going to be
I agree. I think Texas beats Michigan.
A possible, not only a SEC championship preview, because SEC has switched to not doing divisions anymore. It's just the best 2 records. But also, I think this is going to be a very likely playoff preview between these 2 teams. You're going to go to Texas if you're Georgia. Texas just a year ago took down Alabama at Alabama, so they've shown they can hang with these SEC teams. I think Quinn Ewers is probably going to be the best quarterback in the country this season.
Whoa.
I know it's crazy.
I don't know about that.
I know it's crazy. I've seen and I've liked what I've seen, and maybe this is some Quinn to Quinn bias, but I like Quinn Ewers a lot over at Texas, and I think that this Texas-Georgia game, and a big thing for me is this isn't one of those preseason first 3 games of the year where it's like, doesn't really matter, does it really count, because these teams are still figuring out. It's the 7th game of the season. This is October 19th. You should figure out who you are, because by this point, Georgia's already taken on Alabama, Texas has already taken on Michigan. These teams should have their identity by then, and I think
this is like literally right smack dab in the middle of the season.
Exactly, and this is, I think, going to be probably one of the biggest games of the season, if not the biggest. So Georgia-Texas is mine for the regular season.
Riley, what game do you have circled in red ink 10 times?
So it's less so the game and more so the weekend that I have circled in red.
I think I
and that
know
is
what you're gonna have here.
week 12.
Yes.
Week 12, October 12th.
October 12th,
which I think is week 12.
I think
No, it's not. No, it's not. I gotta.
Maybe 8th.
No, it isn't.
I gotta find it real quick.
8.
Yeah,
it's weird with week 0.
Yeah. It is a little. Okay, yeah. October 12th. You have to have that weekend circled.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Ohio State at Oregon. I mean, come on. I mean, like, I don't care if you have a wedding that day. I don't care what you have going on. You need to be in your living rooms unless you live in Oregon or Ohio State if you want to travel and watch that game. You need to watch that game. That, in my opinion, is going to be game of the year. Here's what's interesting. I think they're going to rematch in the Big Ten championship game.
Oh, okay.
Here's another interesting thing. I think Oregon beats them in Autzen. And then I think Ohio State beats them in the Big Ten championship game.
Wow.
But, I mean, look at what else. Ole Miss at LSU. Washington at Iowa. I think that's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Red River, Texas and OU.
I was about to say something about that.
And Penn State at USC. What more could you ask for from a college football weekend? But yeah, that's my pick.
That's phenomenal.
Ohio State, Oregon. It has to be for me because that's going to say a lot. I think Oregon is a lot more tailored right now than the rest of the former Pac-12 schools in the Big Ten. They have a lot of blue chip players on defense. They've got Dylan Gabriel, who's basically just replacing Bo Nix. He is a Bo Nix 2.0. He's got great weapons. That offense has the potential to be the best in college football, going against the best defense in college football. I really want to see how that matchup goes. And so that, in my opinion, is going to shape the rest of the season.
Yeah. So, all right, let me think here. There's so many options I could go with here, right? It's a seemingly unlimited amount of games that I could pick. But I mean, this week 7 slate almost seems like it's like made up. Like it's like too good to be true or something. I think, Riley, I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going to go Ohio State, Oregon.
There we go.
On October 12th.
Yep.
I mean, this is going to be, it's two of the best teams in the country, and Ohio State, who I think at this point in the year, because I'm expecting, especially because my only question with Ohio State is Will Howard. I need him to prove that he is the guy. I have that kind of belief set aside, but I'm like, okay, I need you to Will, I need you to go. For me, I need him to go out there on the field and prove it. I think at this point,
that's what he needs, Quinn.
Yeah,
he needs that.
I need to see that. Yeah. I need to see that.
I don't need to see that.
Yeah, I know you don't need to see that. But no, I think at this point, Will Howard will be fully integrated into the system, and he'll be playing his brand of football. And this Ohio State team will be firing on all cylinders. I think they may be, aside from what they're going to look like when they're playing in late November, early December. This may be the best regular season version of the Buckeyes, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's not I don't think it's unreasonable to say the same about Oregon. I mean, Dylan Gabriel is one of the best players in the game, and I mean they have so many weapons for him, and not to mention he's just a dual threat monster. Two of the best teams in the country, and I mean, in an absolutely raucous environment in Eugene, what more could you want, really?
Yeah,
I will say
slate generally.
Yeah,
I will say for Ohio State, I think this is just this is where we see how good that defense actually is, because you look at the schedule, it's Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State, and then Iowa. And that Iowa game is huge because it's at Ohio State. I think Ohio State should win that comfortably, but it's going to give the offense a quick test, right?
Yeah,
the offense is going to test against the Iowa defense.
Very solid.
Don't sleep on that Nebraska game either. Don't sleep on that game.
That's
Lincoln
post.
or in
That's
Columbus?
Right,
post
but
Oregon.
I'm saying,
I agree.
Don't sleep on that game.
I agree. That's going to be a big one, and especially if Ohio State puts all that effort in. I will say, huge that they have a bye week between those two games to kind of reset after all that motion, because that is a very easy trap game after the Oregon one. But I think this is where we see how good the Ohio State defense is against a top-tier offense like Oregon. And as you mentioned, they're going to beat possibly twice, maybe even 3 times if that gets the draw, which is going to be crazy. That's going to be a possibility more and more between both the SEC and Big Ten. We're going to see that likely happen in the next 5 years, a 3-time matchup.
I think the couple things real quick. The week before, October 5th, just for the plot, the game just for the plot and the narrative, Clemson at Florida State.
Yeah.
You've got team that's gone to the transfer portal, team that hasn't. You've got former quarterback going against his former team. Who was the problem? Was it Clemson or was it DJU? That's a good one. Also, Quinn, real quick,
Yes.
want to ponder it before we get to. I have a question for you. Is it enough for Ryan Day to win the national championship but lose to Michigan in the regular season?
Are you saying would he get fired, or what do
Yes.
you mean by is it enough? He will not get fired if Ohio State wins the national championship.
He will
loses to
not
Michigan.
get fired.
Even if they lose to Michigan, if they win the national championship, he won't get fired.
Good.
If
I'm glad you're a sane Ohio State fan.
if they lose to Michigan, and don't make the playoffs or get first round exit of the playoffs, I think Ryan Day is looking at a chance of being fired, which is crazy to say that you make the playoffs. But
Right.
look, I'm going to be honest. I am not. I want to be careful with my words here because I don't want to say I'm not nervous, because look at the past, what Michigan has done to Ohio State. I think Ohio State would be dramatically, like it would be crazy for Ohio State to lose this year to Michigan.
Yeah,
If
I
it
agree.
doesn't happen this year, what is happening?
Yeah,
like what
when-
is
when-
happening? When will it? Because look, this is the best Ohio State's been in a long time, I think, in terms of, I mean, you just talked about all the returning players. And also, I think, and I mentioned this, I think at the end of last year, but I think this may be the best offseason for any college football team in the history of college football because of the new transfer portals, the loosen and the NIL. It's just, I mean, Ohio State has done everything they can to improve this team, and this team was already fantastic last season. So I think Ohio State is going to win that game.
By double digits, I think, too.
Yeah, comfortably.
so,
But that is an interesting point because Ohio State fans will be calling for it immediately after that game.
Absolutely, they will.
That's going to be crazy if that were the case. But
Remind me, that game the game this year is in Columbus. Or Ann Arbor?
In Columbus.
Got
So
it.
there's really no excuse.
There really is
Absolutely
no excuse.
no
Not
excuse.
this year. Not this
so
season.
I say, I don't know about you guys, I say we finish this up with a Final Four predictions.
Yeah, let's do
and
it.
then head
Let's
on
do
out
it.
of here.
Yeah.
Cool.
Joe, you want to go first, or
Yeah, why not?
you've been letting us take it?
Yeah. I feel like we've been talking too
You can
much.
start it up.
We gotta get the man going in here.
So, all right, let's see. So, my Final Four for the college football playoff. So, you got to put Ohio State in there. I think it's almost like painfully obvious at this point. They have too much talent not to succeed, and all those guys. One of y'all, I think Riley, you mentioned it. All those guys who came back this year from last year's team, they are coming back to win a national championship.
Yes, they are.
And this team has too much talent not to go far in the postseason, and that's where they end up. Ohio State gets in. I think Georgia will also get in. I think Georgia is going to be one of those teams that gets, because I think I saw this last year, especially with Carson Beck. I think this team is going to just get better and better. I say that. I know they're number one in the AP poll right now. I know that. I was at first the first few games last season, I was not convinced that this Georgia team was the same team as they had been over the last 2 seasons, where they won national titles. Mm-hmm. I think Georgia this year, they're number one. Maybe they start kind of slow, barely maybe out of the gate, but they're just going to get better and better and better as the season goes on. I think they did that last year. I think they're going to be playing at a high level once again this year, and I think that they are just too talented, too experienced. They've been on this stage before, and they know exactly what it takes to win at the highest level.
Yep.
And so they're going to be in the Final Four. Ohio State, Georgia. I think, man,
I know, dude. It's hard.
It's kind of agonizing how
That's your championship, Ohio State, Georgia?
Ohio State, Georgia. I think they may be my championship picks. The other two, I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Oregon, I think. I'm going to go with Oregon. I'm going to stick the top 3 teams in there in the AP poll right now, right? So, Oregon, we've been over Oregon already. Dylan Gabriel, he is one of, if not the best quarterback in college football. One guy I'm super high on is Texas A&M transfer Evan Stewart. That guy, I've seen that guy play a little bit. That dude is a baller.
He is
that
a baller.
guy is a monster.
D1 baller.
It would not surprise me if he is in contention. He may already be. I think he already is. It would not surprise me in the slightest if he is in contention for the nation's best wide receiver at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think he's just that good. He actually came from Frisco, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas.
Hey.
Shameless plug slightly. No, but I think okay, Quinn, I'm pretty sure, because, Quinn, you all right over there?
I'm good. I was locked in.
Okay, sorry.
he was
looking at
locked
something.
in.
Yeah.
No, I think that Evan Stewart, because, when I first met Cooper,
Yeah.
somehow Evan Stewart's name came up because I think he went to the same high school as Cooper did, which is crazy. But, Evan Stewart from Frisco, and he went to A&M, now transferred to Oregon, and I would not be surprised if he's one of the best, in contention for the best wide receiver in the country by the end of the season. All right, for the 4th and final spots, okay, we gotta go, we gotta get out of here. This is going to be a huge curveball. Massive curveball.
Oh, boy.
I wanted to do this because I wanted to put someone in that maybe a lot of people don't really expect. Give me the Missouri Tigers.
Whoa.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Whoa.
Okay.
You know what? I respect it. That is a wild pick, and I respect it.
We shall see.
I respect it.
I think the sky's the limit for this team offensively. They've got Brady Cook, who I think is going to take a big step up. It's not to say he wasn't a great quarterback last season, because he was. I think he's going to take an even bigger step forward, bigger than he already took last year, this season. He's going to ascend a tier. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Luther Burden, one of the best. Yes, he's a wide receiver. I would prefer to call him just an offensive weapon. Let's just call him that. One of the best offensive players, period, in college football.
Yep.
And I think this may be a little bit controversial. I think the defense is going to be solid. I don't know if they're going to be on the level of maybe Michigan or Ohio State, because Michigan's defense is going to be great. Ohio State's defense should be really good.
Yep.
I think Missouri's defense, maybe it could surprise some people with how good it is.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say. That's my reason. So I'm going to go Georgia. I'm going to go Ohio State, Georgia, Oregon, Missouri as 4. I think Ohio State beats Georgia in the national championship.
Awesome.
There we go.
Quinn.
Okay, so my first team, I'm going to go quickly here. My first team in, and this is important, my number 1 seed is Ohio State.
Yep.
My number 2 seed, I'm going to go with Georgia.
Okay.
3 seed, Texas.
Okay.
4 seed, Utah. I know we talked about that earlier, having Utah in.
All right.
And here's why those seedings are important. Semifinal locations are the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl this year.
Yep.
Whoever's the number 1 seed gets to choose which place they want to play. I think if Ohio State is taking on Utah, Ohio State, not only is it closer to them to play in Florida, and it's a further trip for Utah. So I think Ohio State chooses that. But that, I think, forces Georgia to go play in the Cotton Bowl against Texas.
Yep.
So now you have Texas playing in Texas.
Essentially a home game for the
Essentially a
Longhorns.
home game against Georgia because, look, I'm not saying Ohio State's scared, but I think Ohio State would much rather play Texas than Georgia. So I think Ohio State's going to send Georgia out to the beast to go play in Texas and take on. And also, Texas is closer to Utah, so it benefits Ohio State. So that seeding is going to be very important come playoffs time. That's something that we haven't really talked about too much, but is a factor for sure. And then I think Ohio State's going to win. I think Texas takes that from Georgia, and I think you get a Quinn Ewers versus Ohio State national championship.
That's going to be so good.
Which would
be so good.
Fantastic
Yes, it
story.
would. Yep.
And I think, call me a homer, but Ohio State's the winner.
I mean, it's hard to deny a team with who is just simply that good.
And with that, I will send it to Riley to finish
Riley,
us off.
I hate to be a spoiler of my picks already, but I think we're going to have an all Ohio State national championship.
Wow.
panel.
Now that could be a good thing, but it's also a little bit of a curse. I don't know. I don't know.
I need to jinx it, but it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, by 4, you have to go Ohio State. I think they're going to play Notre Dame
Oh.
in the semifinal.
Okay.
Because I have Notre Dame actually going 12-0 and getting that 5 seed.
Wow.
I think they're going to beat A&M. It's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
But they win against A&M tomorrow. You look at the rest of the schedule, it's like
Cakewalk.
USC at the Coliseum, last game of the year. They're going to kill them, I think. I think that's going to be the best defense that USC's played all year. So I have Ohio State and Notre Dame playing each other, which means Georgia's on the other side at the 2, and they are going to play my 6th seed, the Oregon Ducks.
Okay.
After losing the Big Ten championship, you said to Ohio State.
Correct. Which means they have a win. In my prediction, they have a win over Ohio State in the regular season. They lost to them in the championship game, which means Ohio State would get that number 1 spot.
Yeah.
So Oregon would get put at 6 because remember, Notre Dame's undefeated. Dylan Gabriel versus Carson Beck. Come on.
Dude.
You can't make enough popcorn for that.
What a statement.
And again, exact same thing happens. They force them. I mean, it doesn't really matter because Texas is out of it at this point. But, again, you still force them to kind of go out of their way. And it's kind of technically closer to Oregon than Florida would be.
Yeah. A little bit, yeah.
Ohio State beats Notre Dame.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a great game. I think Notre Dame's going to put up a good fight. I just think
Ohio State's
offensively, just talent-wise overall, Ohio State's just better.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay because Notre Dame made it to the semifinal. Couple college football playoff wins. Big time. I'm really, really debating on this right now. Give me Ohio State, Oregon 3 for the national championship game.
Okay.
There it is, number 3.
And Ohio State wins it in walk-off field goal fashion.
Wow.
The redemption has been complete.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That is truly awesome.
So we have an all Ohio State pick
Yeah.
here, gentlemen. That's crazy.
All Ohio State to end it, and that's gonna be the show for today. That's gonna be our debut for the new year, the new season. Before I say anything else, Riley, my man, thank you so much for coming on, brother. It is always an amazing time whenever you come
such a
on,
blast.
and we're definitely getting you on again soon, very soon.
Hey, man. Go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
Ton of fun. Sorry. Ton of fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, you guys kill it. You guys do an amazing job. And I mean every word I say when I endorse this show. It's truly a blast. You guys are incredibly talented. You know what you're talking about. And you both have futures in media. Can't wait to see what you guys do. And thank you again for letting me talk about the thing we all love so much. And that is college football and sports, but college football.
That's college football. We had an all college football show today, and I mean, the madness has already started, and it gets kicked up to a new level tomorrow. So tune in for that. But for us, this episode will be up on Spotify, YouTube, just like
the works.
just like last year.
The
It's gonna
works.
be the
The
same.
works.
It's gonna be the same deal. It'll be up on Spotify, YouTube very, very soon. I'm guessing in the next day.
Probably
or
today.
two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Day or two. It'll be up very, very soon. But for now, that's gonna be it. Riley, thank you again for coming on, my man.
Awesome as always to be talking sports with some of the homies.
Oh,
You know how it
absolutely.
is.
It's great to talk sports. Thankful for you guys and thankful for y'all. And stay tuned for this one coming up, and stay tuned for episode 2 coming very soon.
Very soon.